Welcome to Forbidden Texts. What you are about to see may shock you. It may surprise you, but will definitely challenge everything you thought you knew. Stick around until the end to discover the forbidden knowledge that they don't want you to have.
They say spirituality is a path to peace and fulfillment. But here's the truth they don't tell you. Spiritual people often struggle more than anyone else. That's not an exaggeration. It's reality. You've felt it, haven't you? The sleepless nights, the aching feeling that you're seeing the world in a way others don't. And no one gets it. Why is it that those seeking connection, healing, and enlightenment often feel more disconnected, broken, and lost? If you've ever felt like the weight of your awareness is pulling you under, you're not alone. But the question is, why? Why does the pursuit of something so pure feel like a curse? Welcome to Astor's Forbidden Text, where we uncover hidden knowledge and forbidden wisdom. Let's dive into a paradox most people don't even realize exists. The more awake you are, the harder life becomes. Because once you see beyond the veil, you can't unsee it. The things that used to bring you comfort, simple pleasures, shallow connections, and societal norms, they all start to feel hollow. It's not because you've outgrown them, it's because you've realized they were never real to begin with. Think about it, the average person moves through life with blinders on. Their biggest concern might be their next promotion or their weekend plans. And there's nothing wrong with that. Ignorance really is bliss. But you've stepped outside the matrix. You see the systems of control, the false narratives, the deep wounds hidden under the surface of everyday life. That kind of awareness changes you, and not always in ways that feel good. It's not just about seeing the world differently. It's about carrying the weight of what you see, the pain of knowing, the burden of realizing how far the world is from the harmony you crave. It isolates you, doesn't it? Because who do you talk to about these things? Who can even begin to understand? But that's not all. There's another layer to this struggle, a deeper wound that's rarely spoken of. It's the realization that the answers you seek, the peace, the fulfillment, they aren't waiting for you out there. They're buried inside of you. And digging them up, that's the hardest work you'll ever do. Because the deeper you go, the more you uncover the shadows you've been running from. And yet, even in this struggle, there's something pulling you forward. Something that tells you it's all worth it. You're here for a reason, and the discomfort you feel isn't punishment, it's growth. The kind of growth that reshapes you from the inside out. Stay with me. By the end of this, we'll uncover why this path, as grueling as it is, holds the key to a depth of strength and clarity that most people will never experience. Let's keep going. There's more to this story than meets the eye. Let's talk about awareness, the kind of awareness that feels less like a gift and more like a curse. Most people navigate life in autopilot, blissfully unaware of the complexities simmering beneath the surface. But for the spiritually attuned, autopilot isn't an option. You've seen too much. You've felt too much. Awareness changes everything. Once you start to peel back the layers, you can't just slap them back on. You notice the subtle manipulations in conversations, the unspoken pain behind someone's smile, the artificiality in the systems we've been told to trust. And it's not just the world around you that becomes glaringly obvious. It's your own inner chaos too. Think about it. Awareness is like turning up the brightness on your life. At first, it feels liberating, but soon you realize it exposes every flaw, every crack, every broken piece you've been hiding from. And those cracks, they're not just personal, they're societal, cultural, even universal. You're seeing the world as it is, not as it pretends to be. And it's ugly. This kind of raw, unfiltered understanding comes with a cost. Ignorance is bliss because it shields you from the discomfort of knowing. But when you've stepped into awareness, you have no shield. You feel everything. The pain of the world becomes your pain. The injustice, the imbalance, the constant disconnection. It all becomes a weight you carry. And unlike others, you can't shrug it off. You might even wonder, why me? Why do I have to see this? Why can't I just be like everyone else? And here's the hard truth. You can't go back. Once you wake up, there's no going back to sleep. The illusion that once comforted you is gone, and what's left is the unvarnished truth. But that's not the end of the story. That pain, that weight, it's not the enemy. It's the invitation. It's the signal that you're on a path that's both rare and transformative. Because to see the world clearly, even when it hurts, is the first step in changing it. You're not here to live like everyone else. You're here to dive deeper, to uncover what others are too afraid to face. And while it may feel like a curse right now, there's a power in this struggle that can only be found by those willing to carry it. Stay with me, because we're only just scratching the surface. The hardest truths always hide the greatest rewards. Now let's dig into something most people never talk about, the isolation that comes with inner growth. Because let's be honest, spirituality can be a lonely road. Not everyone will understand what you're going through. In fact, most won't even try. When you start evolving, growing, or seeing the world differently, you inevitably outgrow people. Friends, family, coworkers, people who once felt like home now feel like strangers. And it's not because you don't love them anymore. It's because the version of you they knew is no longer here. You've changed, and change scares people. You'll notice it in the little things. Conversations that used to excite you now feel shallow. Relationships that once seemed fulfilling now feel draining. And the worst part, you can't explain it to anyone. Try telling someone that you're disconnecting because your soul is shifting, because your energy no longer aligns with theirs. It sounds ridiculous to them, even if it feels like the deepest truth to you. The more you grow, the harder it is to stay tethered to the world you once knew. You start to live in two realities, the one everyone else sees and the one you've awakened to. In the first, everything feels surface level, transactional, fleeting. In the second, everything is deeper, richer, more real, but also more painful. And you're stuck between these two worlds, unable to fully exist in either. You might try to bridge the gap. You'll share your insights, your new perspectives, hoping someone will understand. But instead, you're often met with blank stares, polite nods, or outright dismissal. The realization hits hard. Most people aren't ready to go where you're going. And that's not their fault. It's just the reality of waking up in a world that's still asleep. This isolation isn't just external, it's internal too. Because spiritual growth forces you to confront the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. The wounds, the fears, the doubts, they all come rushing to the surface. And let's be real, facing yourself is one of the hardest things a person can do. There's no running, no hiding. It's just you, your shadows, and the long, lonely process of healing. But here's the thing, this loneliness isn't forever. It's a season, not a life sentence. And it serves a purpose. When you strip away the old connections, the old versions of yourself, you create space for something new. New relationships, deeper connections, a truer sense of belonging. But first, you have to go through the wilderness. And while it's tempting to stop, to go back to what's familiar, you didn't come this far just to settle. You're walking a path few have the courage to take. And that path, as lonely as it feels, is leading you somewhere most people will never reach. Stick with me, because what's waiting on the other side of this isolation is nothing short of extraordinary. Let's get real about one of the most gut-wrenching parts of this journey, the dark night of the soul. This isn't some poetic metaphor. It's a descent into a void so deep, it makes you question everything you've ever known. It's not just hard, it's devastating. You wake up one day, and nothing feels right. The things that used to bring you joy feel empty. The beliefs that once gave you comfort feel meaningless. Even the people you love can't seem to reach you. It's as if the very fabric of your life is unraveling, and no matter how hard you try to hold it together, it keeps slipping through your fingers. What's worse is the silence. The profound, deafening silence. In this darkness, there are no answers, no clear paths, no comforting whispers from the universe. It's just you and the void, staring each other down. And in that void, you're forced to face a terrifying truth. Everything you thought you were, your identity, your plans, your dreams, was an illusion. And that process isn't gentle. It's messy, brutal, and it doesn't care about your timelines or your comfort zone. You might cry out for help, but here's the kicker. No one can save you. Not a guru, not a book, not even the most profound meditation. This part of the journey is yours and yours alone. It's a breaking point designed to shatter you, not because the universe is cruel, but because it's the only way to rebuild you into something stronger, something real. But here's the paradox. Even in this destruction, there's something sacred happening. The dark night isn't a punishment, it's an initiation. It's a rite of passage that forces you to let go of everything you're not so you can discover who you truly are. And while it feels like you're losing everything, you're actually gaining something far more valuable: clarity. Clarity about what matters, clarity about who you are, and clarity about the path ahead. When you emerge, and you will emerge, you'll carry a depth of understanding that most people will never know. You'll realize that the darkness wasn't there to destroy you. It was there to awaken you. Right now, it might feel like you're in free fall. But trust me, this descent has a purpose. Because in the depths of this struggle lies the foundation for a strength and authenticity you can't yet imagine. Don't give up. What's waiting for you on the other side of this darkness is a light unlike anything you've ever known. Keep going. Let's confront a topic that makes most people uncomfortable: your shadow. The parts of yourself you'd rather ignore. The anger, the jealousy, the fear, the insecurities. All the things you've buried because they don't fit the image of who you want to be. Shadow work isn't just uncomfortable, it's terrifying. And yet, it's essential. Most people think of spirituality as light and love, as ascending to a higher plane where everything feels good and pure. But that's a half-truth. You can't climb to the light without first descending into the dark. And that's where shadow work comes in. It's the process of digging into the parts of yourself you've spent your whole life avoiding. At first, you might resist it. After all, you've worked hard to become the person you are. But shadow work doesn't care about your carefully constructed identity. It tears through it, exposing every flaw, every wound, every hidden piece of yourself. And when those pieces come to the surface, it's messy. You might feel ashamed, angry, or overwhelmed. You'll question everything, especially yourself. Here's what no one tells you. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's not something to be fixed or defeated. It's a part of you, a vital part. The pain, the flaws, the mistakes, they all hold lessons and wisdom that you can't access any other way. But to get to that wisdom, you have to be willing to face the discomfort. You have to sit with it, acknowledge it, and even embrace it. And let's not forget, shadow work isn't a one-and-done process. It's relentless. Just when you think you've healed something, another layer emerges. It's like peeling an onion, except each layer stings a little more than the last. You might wonder if it ever ends. And the truth, it doesn't. Not entirely. But that's not the point. The point is what happens along the way. Each time you confront your shadow, you reclaim a piece of yourself. You stop running. You become whole. And with that wholeness comes a kind of power that's impossible to fake. You start to see that the things you feared most about yourself, the darkness, the messiness, the imperfection, are the very things that make you human, that make you real. This isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming authentic. It's about stepping into the fullness of who you are, light and dark, and realizing that you don't have to be one or the other. You can be both. It's not easy, and it's not supposed to be. But every time you choose to do this work, you're breaking cycles. You're healing not just yourself, but the patterns you've inherited, the pain you've carried, the stories you've been told. And while it might feel like an endless struggle, it's also a profound transformation. Keep going. Each layer you confront, each shadow you integrate, brings you closer to the freedom and authenticity you've been searching for. You're not just healing, you're becoming. And what you're becoming is something extraordinary. Let's continue, because the deeper we go, the more powerful the truth becomes. Let's talk about the trap no one sees coming: spiritual bypassing. It's the silent thief that sneaks into your journey and steals your progress while whispering sweet lies in your ear. And the worst part, it feels like growth. Spiritual bypassing happens when you use spirituality to avoid facing the hard truths about yourself and your life. It looks like positivity on the outside, but underneath, it's denial. It's pretending everything is fine when deep down, you're crumbling. It's masking pain with affirmations, replacing self-awareness with rituals, and chasing enlightenment as an escape from reality. You've seen it. Maybe you've even done it, pushing away uncomfortable emotions with a quick love and light, avoiding difficult conversations because you've risen above it, or convincing yourself that if you just meditate harder, you'll never feel pain again. It's seductive because it feels good in the moment. But here's the problem: it's a lie. True spirituality isn't about escaping the human experience. It's about diving into it fully. The joy, the sorrow, the love, the rage, it's all part of the journey. But spiritual bypassing tricks you into thinking you can skip the hard parts, that you can transcend your pain without actually confronting it. And that's where people get stuck. Think about it. How often have you heard someone say, "I'm just focusing on high vibrations"? It sounds good, but if it's just a way to avoid dealing with low vibrations, anger, fear, grief, then it's not growth. It's avoidance. And the more you avoid, the more those unresolved emotions fester beneath the surface, waiting for the perfect moment to explode. But here's the truth no one wants to hear: real healing is messy. It's raw. It doesn't happen in a perfectly lit yoga studio or during a 5-minute gratitude exercise. It happens when you're in the trenches, crying your eyes out, feeling like you're breaking apart. Because only in those moments do you truly face what's been holding you back. The temptation to bypass is strong, especially in a world that glorifies quick fixes and instant results. But you're not here for shortcuts. You're here for something real. And that means embracing the full spectrum of your humanity. The good, the bad, and the ugly. It means being honest with yourself, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. Because here's the thing: every time you confront the pain, every time you sit with the discomfort instead of running from it, you're reclaiming a piece of yourself. You're tearing down the walls that spiritual bypassing builds around your heart. And in their place, you're building something unshakable. This isn't about being perfect or high vibe all the time. It's about being authentic. It's about being human. And when you stop trying to escape the hard parts of your journey, you'll find that the very things you were running from hold the key to everything you've been searching for. So stay the course. Lean into the discomfort. The path to true growth isn't easy, but it's real. And the real thing, that's what will set you free. Keep going. There's so much more to uncover. Let's tackle one of the heaviest struggles: the crushing weight of purpose. For spiritually minded people, it's not just about surviving or achieving, it's about why you're here. And that question, it can feel like a never-ending labyrinth, with no clear answers and no one to guide you. The world teaches us to chase success, but for you, success isn't enough. You're after something deeper, something meaningful, something that leaves the world a little better than you found it. That's a noble pursuit, but let's be honest, it's also exhausting. Because when your goals aren't tied to money, status, or approval, how do you even measure progress? How do you know if you're on the right path? This search for purpose can feel like walking in the dark. You have glimpses, intuitions, moments where everything seems clear, but then the fog rolls back in, and you're left second-guessing everything. Did you make the right choices? Are you wasting your time? Are you even capable of living up to this sense of calling that feels so much bigger than you? And then there's the pressure. The unshakable feeling that if you don't figure it out, you're failing, not just yourself, but the world. That's the double-edged sword of purpose. It gives your life meaning, but it also gives your life weight. Heavy, unrelenting weight. And unlike others, you can't just ignore it. That calling doesn't go away. It keeps whispering in your ear, reminding you that there's more to do, more to become. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, the disconnect between your vision and your reality. You have these dreams, these ideas of how you want to impact the world, but the day-to-day grind often feels so far removed from that vision. Maybe you're stuck in a job that drains you, or maybe you're juggling responsibilities that leave little room for your soul's work. Either way, the gap between where you are and where you want to be can feel insurmountable. Here's the thing most people won't tell you. Your purpose isn't a destination. It's not a single moment of clarity where everything falls into place. It's a journey, a messy, unpredictable journey. And every step you take, even the ones that feel like detours or dead ends, is part of that purpose unfolding. The uncertainty, the doubts, the setbacks, they're not signs that you're failing. They're signs that you're growing. Because the truth is, purpose isn't something you find. It's something you create. It's born in the small, unglamorous moments when you choose to keep going, even when the path ahead is unclear. This isn't to say the struggle isn't real. It is. But that struggle is shaping you. It's refining you. It's teaching you to trust yourself, to trust the process, to trust that even when you can't see the full picture, you're still painting something beautiful. So take a breath. The weight you feel isn't here to crush you. It's here to ground you. To remind you that your work, your growth, your impact, it all matters. Even on the days when it doesn't feel like it. Stay with me, because what's waiting at the intersection of purpose and perseverance is something extraordinary. Let's keep going. There's more to this story than you've been told. Let's get into something that doesn't get talked about enough, the battle between spirituality and the society we live in. Because let's face it, walking a spiritual path in a world built on materialism, competition, and distraction feels like swimming upstream. And sometimes, it feels like you're barely keeping your head above water. Everywhere you look, the message is the same. Buy this, achieve that, hustle harder, climb the ladder. Society defines worth by how much you produce, how much you own, how many followers you have. But for you, those things feel empty. You're not chasing stuff, you're chasing meaning. You're chasing truth. And that puts you at odds with the very fabric of the world around you. This isn't just a philosophical clash, it's a daily struggle. While others are building their lives around what they can see and touch, you're building yours on something invisible, something intangible. And when you try to explain it, you're often met with confusion, skepticism, or outright dismissal. Why can't you just focus on your career? Why do you always have to overthink everything? Why can't you just be normal? And let's be real, sometimes you wish you could be normal. It would be so much easier to just fit in, to follow the rules, to stop questioning everything. But you can't unknow what you know. You can't go back to living a life that feels shallow, no matter how much easier it would be. But the alienation is real. You're different, and society doesn't make space for people like you. It's designed to reward conformity, not introspection. And that can leave you feeling out of place, like you're always on the outside looking in. You crave connection, but finding people who truly get you feels like searching for a needle in a haystack. Even the way society defines success is a struggle for spiritual people. For most, success is linear. Work hard, achieve goals, reap rewards. But for you, success isn't about climbing ladders. It's about growing, evolving, and aligning with your values. And that kind of success, it doesn't come with trophies or applause. It's quiet, internal, unseen. But here's the truth you need to hear. Being different isn't a flaw, it's a gift. The world needs people like you, people who see beyond the noise, who question the norms, who refuse to settle for a life that doesn't feel authentic. Your struggle to exist in a society that doesn't align with your soul isn't a sign that you're broken. It's a sign that you're awake. And you're not alone. There are others like you, people who are also navigating this strange, disconnected world while holding on to their deeper truths. It might take time, but you'll find them. And when you do, you'll realize that you were never truly alone. In the meantime, remember this. Your struggle isn't for nothing. Every time you choose authenticity over conformity, every time you hold on to your values in a world that tries to strip them away, you're creating change. You're planting seeds. You're showing others that there's another way to live. So keep going. Keep questioning. Keep holding on to your truth, even when it feels like the hardest thing in the world. Because the world might not understand you now, but it will. Your journey is part of something much bigger than yourself. Let's keep uncovering it together. There's more to this story, and it's only just beginning. The struggles we've talked about, awareness, isolation, shadow work, the clash with society, are not random. They're the exact challenges designed to shape you into who you're meant to become. Every moment of doubt, every ounce of pain, every sleepless night questioning your path is a part of the process. A process that's brutal, yes, but also sacred. Think about it. Diamonds don't form without pressure. Gold isn't purified without fire. And growth, it doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in the chaos, in the breakdowns, in the moments when you feel like giving up. That's when the real transformation begins. You see, the reason spiritual people struggle isn't because they're weak. It's because they're strong enough to face what others avoid. You've chosen a path that demands everything from you, and in return, it gives you something most people will never experience: depth, authenticity, and clarity. By now, you've probably realized that this journey isn't about fixing yourself or reaching some final destination. It's about embracing every part of who you are, the light and the dark, the struggles and the breakthroughs, the human and the divine. Because when you do, you become unstoppable. Not because you're perfect, but because you're whole. And here's the ultimate truth. The struggles you face as a spiritual person aren't here to defeat you. They're here to refine you, to show you your strength, to remind you that even in the hardest moments, you're still standing. You're still growing. You're still here. So take this as your reminder. You are not alone in this. Every tear, every doubt, every moment of pain is part of something much bigger. Something that's preparing you for a life that's not just successful, but meaningful. A life that's not just about existing, but about living. Fully, authentically, powerfully. And when you look back, you'll see that every struggle was worth it. Because it brought you here. To this moment. To this path. To this version of yourself that's braver, wiser, and more alive than ever before. This is your story. This is your journey. And it's far from over.